Welcome back. Well, later this month, MPs will decide whether or not to approve the legislation of assisted dying in England and Wales. The legalisation would require those looking to end their lives to self-administer the end-of-life drugs and have a life expectancy of no more than 6 months. Let's get more on this now with the Labour MP Kim Leadbeater, who proposed the new legislation, the terminally ill adults end-of-life bill. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Just give us a quick snapshot why you believe in this bill.
I think for me, as a parliamentarian, we have a duty to fix things that aren't right. And if I look at the status quo in terms of the law around end-of-life choices for people, it's not fit for purpose. We've got people who are having harrowing, horrible deaths because even with, in some cases, the very best palliative care, their needs cannot be met. We've also got people who are taking their own lives in really tragic circumstances. And we've got people who do have the choice of an assisted death, but only in a different country. So if they can afford to spend thousands of pounds travelling, and also doing so often prematurely while they're still well enough to do so. So if we look at that situation, of which there is no real legal framework around it, that can't be right. And I think we have got a duty as legislators to fix that situation.
Let's talk about some of the safeguards that you've built into this legislation that you hope will offset some of your colleagues' concerns. One of them is that people have to have 6 months or less to live as a prerequisite. How does that get defined, and what are the checks even around that safety?
Yeah, so I mean, I've consulted widely on the bill, whether that's legal professionals, whether that's medical people, palliative care experts, disability activists, but speaking to the British Medical Association and speaking to doctors with experience at the end of life, it's easier to define that period the closer someone is to death. So there are people who would want the bill to go further and look at conditions without an actual diagnosis. And I understand their frustration that the bill doesn't do that, but actually that 6-month period, it is much easier for medical practitioners to know when someone is approaching those final few months.
And you're confident that they would be absolutely certain of that fact?
Well, I mean, doctors are doing this day in and day out. There is an estimation. But yes, people are saying within 6 months, that is the easiest time frame to determine.
And then it would also go via the High Court as well?
Yeah, so 2 doctors involved in the process. And what I've tried to do with the bill is building layers of safeguards and protections, because I understand this would be a huge change to the law. So 2 doctors would be involved, working independently. There would be a High Court judge, and that wouldn't just be a tick box exercise. The judge would speak to the doctors, be reassured that all the process had been followed, always checking in with the patient. The doctor could speak to the patient if they wanted to. And at any point, the patient can change their mind. So lots and lots of layers of safeguards and protections, which I hope reassures people that we're solving the problem that we need to solve, because at the moment there are no safeguards. We don't know if people who are taking their own lives are being coerced. We don't know what's happening to people who are going to different countries. So by putting that legal framework around it, it will actually create a much more robust situation.
Earlier in the show, we played Ashish Joshi's report on this, and one thing that really struck me is this aspect that it has to be self-administered. Why is that?
Well, there's a very clear line between the bill that I'm proposing and euthanasia, someone else doing the deed. This bill is about autonomy and it's about choice. So it has to be the decision of the individual and it has to be the act of the individual. And I think, again, that just creates that extra level of safeguards and protections for anyone who might have concerns about the bill.
Quite sort of brutal to self-administer.
Well, by the time the patient gets to that point, they've gone through a huge process of thinking about whether this is what they want to do. And also they can change their mind at that point if they want to. Yeah. And actually, the experiences that have been described to me, it's not a brutal process. It's actually a compassionate process with loved ones around you. And that's the kind of death people want, rather than, as I've heard many stories of, hours, sometimes days of people choking to death, vomiting, and you know, horrible circumstances. Yeah. And all that these people who have got a very short period of time left to live want is that choice.
Let's touch on some of the pushback that we've seen. Obviously, it's a free vote, so some of this pushback comes from your own colleagues. You, I believe, said in an earlier interview that we have some of the best palliative care around. Your own health secretary, Wes Streeting, has said, "I've come down this time on voting against the bill on the basis that I worry about palliative care, end-of-life care, not being good enough." So what's your view? I mean, that's your own health secretary that says that.
Well, what I'm really pleased about is that we're having a conversation about palliative care. And I would stand by my comments. We do have some brilliant palliative care in this country, some of the best in the world. I visited my local hospice recently, and they are working and doing amazing work to help people and support people. But that doesn't mean to say there are not challenges and things that need to be solved. But actually, as I've said already, there are some people for whom, no matter how good that palliative care is, their needs cannot be met. And it's really important that we don't lose sight of their rights as well. But let's address the challenges in palliative care. I met with the Association of Palliative Medicine and I said, come back. Whatever happens with the bill, let's talk about palliative care. Let's have those conversations as well. So let's celebrate the good work that does go on, but let's make sure we have that conversation alongside this one. And there is evidence in some countries where assisted dying has been legalised that palliative care improves. And they're not mutually exclusive things. Let's have those conversations hand in hand.
And the Justice Secretary saying, quote, I feel that once you cross that line, you've crossed it forever. That sort of principle and the slippery slope argument. What's your response?
I'm good friends with Shabana and I fully respect her position, and as she has said, as a person of faith, as a Muslim, this isn't a piece of legislation she would be able to support. And I respect that. But I have also had conversations with people of faith who have said, actually, even though I might not choose this, who am I to stop someone else having that choice? And those are actually some of the most powerful conversations I've had. So within the Cabinet, there are a range of views. The Prime Minister has been very open about his view on the issue. Informed by his work as the Director of Public Prosecutions, seeing the failings in the current legal system. And there are other people within the health team, Karen Smith, who's campaigned on this issue for 20 years and is fully supportive of a change in the law. So there are mixed views, as there should be, and as I would expect, within Parliament and on a cross-party basis as well.
So has the Prime Minister indicated to you that he's going to vote in favour?
Well, Keir Starmer is on record previously saying he thinks the law needs to change, and he voted in favour in 2015.
But he's saying he's not at the moment going to come out either way. But your belief is he will vote in favour?
I haven't spoken to Keir in the last few weeks, but my understanding, based on what he said previously, that he's supportive of a change in the law. Do
you expect him to come out before the vote to announce which way he's going either way?
I don't honestly know. I can maybe try and find out, but I don't know. I mean, the point is it's a free vote and everybody can make up their own mind and decision. And there's really interesting cross-party support. The Liberal Democrats are the only party who have party policy, and they say that assisted dying should be, the law should be changed around that.
I mean, I guess the reason I come back to the point about the Prime Minister is, you know, I purposefully picked out the Health Secretary and the Justice Secretary because we might be in a position where this has to be implemented by two people who don't believe in it. Is that a problem, do you think? Because it's such an important issue.
No, because, I mean, I know Shabana and I know Wes very well, and they are professional people, and they know they have a job to do, and, you know, they will support whatever decision Parliament takes, and Parliament is sovereign. So I'm not worried about that. And as I say, I think it's, you know, it's important to acknowledge there are different views across the Cabinet and across government. But, yeah, we're all elected to do our jobs, and whatever laws Parliament passes, that's our job to make sure that they're enforced.
Would you have liked to have seen this done on government time and for have a bit more time between you bringing the bill out and the vote taking place? Or is everyone quite relaxed about that it's something that they've kind of already formed their views on and they've got enough time to address the bill?
Yeah, no, for me, that the process is absolutely fine, and it's a very robust process. I think if we think about the issue has been debated for decades, so it's not a new issue. I think most MPs, even those who got elected this time, know that this is an issue which was going to come before Parliament at some point. The 29th of November, when we have the second reading, is the start of the parliamentary process. So it will then go into Bill Committee, there will be a third reading, there will be a report stage, it will go to the House of Lords. So there's a long period of probably at least 6 months of debate and scrutiny. And then there will also be a period of implementation. So this change, if it does happen, and I do hope it does, for those people who deserve this choice and the right, it will be a matter of maybe, it could be a couple of years.
Obviously, because it's a free vote, there's sort of not the info that the whips might have as normal. Do you have any idea of which way it's going to go? Do you think it's likely to pass?
I don't, to be honest. I mean, I've been very much focused on getting the bill drafted. That's been the real priority for me. But I'm certainly having lots of conversations with people. I think there's a feeling in Parliament of general acknowledging that something needs to change. And if we look at the stories that I've spoken about this morning, we'll all have constituents who've had horrible deaths and either gone to another country or people who've taken their own lives and so forth. So I think we know there's a problem. I hope that the bill now reassures people who believe in this change in principle that the safeguards are in place there so we can do this in the right way that it should be done. But we'll see what happens on the 29th.
Just finally, I mean, it's such a divisive issue, or at least the views each side have are very strongly held opinions. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like, for example, Brexit did, where everyone's attacking everyone and no one can see sense in the other person's argument. It's quite It's quite an interesting topic in that sense. It's very strongly held opinions, but people can almost understand both sides regardless of which side they're on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation. And one of the things I was really keen to do when I chose to put the bill forward was try and facilitate a robust but a compassionate and a respectful debate. And I think for the large part that has played out. I mean, I've certainly met with everybody you can think of, whether that's faith leaders or disability rights activists or palliative care specialists, medics, lawyers, judges, and every conversation I've had, even where there have been lines of difference, has been done in a really respectful manner, and I hope that can continue in the coming weeks and months.
Kim Leadbeater, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great discussion, as always.